4 wins from 4 at the start of this new Premier League season. 7 wins out of 7 in all competitions. How surprised then are we, Natalie, starting with you, to see Everton there?
Well, a bit surprised. First, I'm delighted, actually, because from a neutral point of view, this table is amazing. I'm having the best time in these first 4 rounds. I was a bit surprised with the gap between Everton finishing last season and now, because it was such a short break that we had. It was very unusual, and you saw a big difference. So I think Everton is very exciting right now. But my main question around Everton is, do they have depth in their squads to maintain this for the whole season? Because, of course, now Calvert-Lewin is delivering. James Rodriguez is adapting so well in the league, and they have very good players, but is it enough to do this for 38 rounds?
Yeah. Raphael, what do you think?
I'm also surprised, I must say. The improvement has been so rapid and so pronounced that I don't think you could really expect that. Yes, you knew that somebody like James Rodriguez would light up the midfield and would give something that had been missing from the Everton midfield, another dimension. But I think what's interesting is it seems to me as if other players have been lifted as well. I mean, when you look at Sigurdsson, how he now is flourishing alongside some of the players we mentioned, we see a different dimension to his game, or we see more consistent performance from him. And that's been, I think, the miracle really at the heart of this story. And I've been very critical of Ancelotti when he was at Bayern. It didn't work out for him then. And I thought it was really interesting to see him do something with a team that doesn't necessarily scream superstars. But so far, you just have to take your hat off to him.
Jonathan, what's Ancelotti done differently then? What's he done to turn things around, or just make this rapid start to the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting Rafi mentions the Bayern period of his career, because that gave me reason for doubts as well. And I think he's almost gone back to where he was when he was Parma manager, Juventus, earlier in his career, where he's had to build something. I think there was a sign of improvement last year. There was a different culture about Everton in terms of resilience. I think the first thing you noticed was they were just a little bit less of a soft touch on the pitch. But that was being expressed in results in terms of them getting draws where they might have been beaten. But this is a big jump. This is now a team that's taking charge of games, that's starting to create the play to dominate. And I didn't see that improvement happen so quickly. And I think it probably comes down to really good recruitment as much as anything else. The power of making the right signings in the right areas of the team that are going to sort of provide an engine for what you want to do. He looks like he's done that. And he's got belief. But as Natalie said as well, this is 4 games in, and the test will be, can this be maintained with the squad? Can James maintain it himself, because he's been so important? And that's Ancelotti's real sort of litmus test. You know, has he embedded these changes enough for it to sustain itself?
James Rodriguez said, talking about his Bayern time, that sometimes he got up, couldn't believe how cold it was. So
he's in for it.
We'll see how things will develop. I mean, Merseyside never quite gets quite as cold as Munich, where we'll have snow and all these things. But maybe the weather will provide a challenge. It's a
very windy training ground as well at Everton, so he's in for a shock.
Yeah, it's going to get worse as well, isn't it?
But I think there's an aspect of Everton that's very interesting. You have a few important people there who have a point to prove. Ancelotti recently, James in the past couple of seasons for Real Madrid, even Sigurdsson, because everybody was expecting so much from him, and he came as a big signing, and he didn't deliver as much as he could in the past season. You have a young player like Richarlison who's developing. You have Calvert-Lewin getting chances in the national team. So you have this motivation around the team that's going to be very important for Everton.
Yeah, I think also what he's helped to do in the short space of time is almost change the mentality. The fact that they managed that first win away to a big 6 in Tottenham, the first in 40 attempts. I mean, that can only, I suppose, reinvigorate, his ideas to the players. They know what he's about, and clearly they can go forward with more confidence. Let's have a look at their summer recruitment. The one name that keeps cropping up, for obvious reasons, is James Rodriguez. Ben Godfrey came very late in the window, of course, the signing from Norwich City. But the midfield was very much his focal point. Rodriguez, Allen, the destroyer, but can also play football, no doubt. And Abdoulaye Doucouré from Watford, the box-to-box archetypal midfielder. And it's that middle third of the pitch which seems to have galvanised the rest of the team.
I think so. I mean, without being too hipster about it, the signing of Allen and probably the signing of Decore is much cleverer than the signing of James. James has been a brilliant signing so far, but Allen and Decore both, to me, looked like signings that any club could have made.
Yeah.
Proven players. You knew what they were going to get in terms of their mentality, consistency of achievement. Decore was always going to be Premier League ready. Allen, you wouldn't have had any doubts with him if you'd seen his career properly. And already you look at them both and think, why didn't a different club make those signings?
Yes, definitely.
And well done, Everton.
Yeah, I was like, finally someone signed Allen.
Yeah.
You know, he's been doing so well.
Good.
I know Napoli is a tough club in terms of negotiating and everything, but he's been doing so well for a very long time. And I'm surprised of, like, Doucouré, of course, he knows the league, but he adapted so quickly. The first match against Tottenham, he took the midfield. He owned the midfield. And I think that's what was expected from him, because everybody was talking about Everton's midfield problems and how that should be addressed.
3 goals, 2 assists from James, though, and you're clearly quite surprised by what he's done so far.
I'm surprised he's been able to do it so quickly, because he strikes you as the kind of player who might need a bit of time to get used to the Premier League, get used to a very different type of football. At Bayern, he was in and out of the team. Whenever he was on the pitch, he usually did well, but never quite well enough to hold down a starting position. Also a player who sometimes you wonder what is his best position. In a ball-playing midfield, you can put him as a number 10. Now he's playing as a number 10, but on the right side. So others are doing a bit of the running for him. But of course, he's been so efficient and impactful when he touches the ball that I think some of the, I don't want to say deficiencies, but some of the issues or some of the things you don't get from him are compensated. And I think the team feel that they can live with that, because once they get the ball to him, good things happen. And the only reason I'm surprised is because it's happened so quickly
it's the speed
and so
of
often.
What did you make of him? You've interviewed him already, haven't you?
Yes,
I don't know if that was already into the season or at the start of the season.
It was after the Spurs match.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, because during the match, I was like, this guy's not going to press. He's not going to press. He's not going to help with the pressing. And yes, no, he's not going to press, but it's okay because he offers so much more. And then I asked him, well, you've been around Europe, played in a few different leagues. Which is the James Everton's getting? And he was very sure of himself. He was like, yeah, football is pretty much the same everywhere. Of course, there's an adaptation period. And I asked him about his physicality as well, because it's such a physical league. And he was like, yeah, no, I feel physically well. But it's not only about the physicality, and it's not only about the adaptation. It's about what he can offer to the team. And yeah, that sounds pretty right, actually, if we look at the matches so far.
Was he up for the physical challenge?
Yes, definitely.
That's interesting, because I thought Brighton targeted him quite a few times. He was in for a few physical challenges.
They did. It's an interesting time that he's arrived, though. I mean, yes, Brighton did target him, and I'm sure other teams will as well. But there's evidence that in this kind of league without fans, that the Premier League has dipped in intensity a little bit. Certainly, anecdotally, the tackles, you hear players say, aren't quite as hard or vicious as they were without fans urging players in. And there's sort of statistical evidence to suggest that the speed of the game is slightly less at the moment. So maybe it's a good time for James to arrive. But I think Ancelotti's also just very good at working out exactly what a player's strengths is and getting them to focus on that. And you can see how he's done that with Calvert-Lewin in terms of getting him in the 6-yard box. And with James, it looks like he's just focusing him on creativity in goals and getting near the box. Because he can do that. We know he can do that. So
another club where we keep hearing from the players how much Ancelotti is good in dealing with the players and taking the best out of them. And James, he just loves Carlo. It's so clear, the bonds that they have. I'm surprised it didn't work so well at Bayern, but I think here in Everton, it's going to happen.
OK, well, let's hear now then from one of Everton's main men this season in front of goal, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who credits a former Everton number 9 with his remarkable rise to the top of the scoring charts. 9 goals in 6 domestic games in all competitions. He was nicknamed in the Sunday Times, Dominic Calvert-Lewandowski? Is that right?
I'd love to claim that one.
Was that you?
No, I have it, though.
It just goes to show the fact that there is even that rather tenuous link with the flying, Bayern Munich player. Is he's doing brilliantly well right now?
Well, he's scoring goals for at the moment at a Lewandowski rate, or at the rate of a top player. Whether he can continue it, of course, is another matter. But interesting to hear him talk about Duncan Ferguson as one of his influences. I mean, I grew up with watching Big Duncan as a Scotsman, and I think what Duncan always had, and he wasn't a prolific goal scorer really, but he had that sense that the number 9 is the leader of the team, that the number 9 sets the tone for the team. That's what Ferguson's career was all about, and it looks like Calvert-Lewin has got that sense as well now, that he can be the team's focal point, because he's got a really good character about him, and there's so much desire there when he plays. He wants to be the man. You could see that oozing out of him. You could see that with him in the England camp recently, and it's not a bad combination. Big Duncan plus Ancelotti and his know-how with strikers.
So can you see the similarities with Big Dunk?
In the air sometimes.
Yes, aerially.
I mean, and it's also a good time for somebody to have aerial prowess, with central defending not being particularly good at the moment.
Yeah.
There's plenty of opportunities. So Calvert-Lewin's always had that in his game, and that was Duncan's game. I can see that. Yeah. But maybe what he is doing that Duncan wasn't doing is getting in the 6-yard box and scoring those tap-ins.
Look at the transformation under Ancelotti. Minutes per goal virtually halved from 309 to 144. Shot conversion rate is well up as well. But look at that, 14 goals, 1 assist in 24 games. It's not a bad return, is it? I mean, the big question is, and we were almost in this situation with Tammy Abraham this time last season, the big question is, can he sustain it?
Yeah, and I mean, first of all, I think his numbers reflect the fact that this is now a team that creates a lot of chances. I think playing a striker in this Everton team is a lot more fun than playing in Marco Silva's team. Dare I say, also playing in Duncan Ferguson's team, but that's less to do with the coaches, more to do with the recruitment and the quality in midfield that exists now.
Yeah.
You want to be surrounded by creative midfielders. You want to have the service. If you are a box player, as he is, he's not going to necessarily do a lot of stuff by himself outside the box, taking 3 or 4 players. But if he can get the last touch, he can make that run, be in the right place, then now with all the attention in midfield, spaces are opening up, opportunities come along. And I think physically, and also in terms of the intelligence of his movement, he is in a great position to benefit from that. As long as Everton as a team keep clicking and keep providing us chances, there's every chance that he will be there to put them away.
Yeah, it's part of this front three. When they're attacking, of course, they've got Rodriguez on the right, Richarlison on the left. They've all got very different characteristics, haven't they? And I suppose that works together as a three.
Yes, and they are all benefiting from what Rafa just mentioned about getting more opportunities. I spoke with Richarlison before the season started, and he mentioned that I'm going to deliver goals, but the ball needs to get to the attacking players. And that wasn't happening in many occasions for Everton last season.
Yeah.
And I remember even Ancelotti mentioning that he believes that Richarlison can score 20 goals this season. So he put this target for him, 20 goals a season. It's a good target to have. But they need to get the ball, and I think they're all benefiting from that.
I've always had the impression with Richarlison, and I don't know whether it's just because of the way he comes across. I've never met him. You can correct me now. He would like to be the big fish in that pond. But now that James Rodriguez is there, Calvert-Lewin's getting all the goals. How has he taken to that? Is there a little bit of frustration with himself?
Well, I think in a healthy way. You know, he's very demanding. He's very demanding with himself. He gets really frustrated when he doesn't score, which I think is great for a young player who's clearly still developing.
Yeah.
So I can see that happening, that frustration. He knows he can deliver more, and he knows he can offer more to Everton, especially in terms of number of goals.
And talking of frustration, Jonathan, if there's any one negative aspect to Everton right now, what about the goalkeeping situation? Jordan Pickford has now got competition with Robin Olsen. Is his place now seriously under threat after another error? And we've seen a couple already this season from him.
I think it is, and I think it was Natalie that said there's people with something to prove at Everton, and that's fueling improvement, which is right. there's probably no one with more to prove than Pickford at the moment, given the not just season he had. He's probably had 2 bad seasons now, 2 seasons since the 2018 World Cup, where his kind of reputation's been on the slide because of unforced errors. It's no more complicated than, you know, mistakes that he's making, which seem to be the product of a mentality that's you know, a lack of calmness, poor decision making. Now, whether more pressure on you helps with that, I don't know. He looks to me like a player that needs to grow up a little bit, and I guess it's one of Ancelotti's next projects. I don't know what you do with that. I'm not, you know, coaching goalkeepers is different.
Yeah, but the thing is, I remember around the World Cup, I did a piece on Pickford and spoke with a few people who worked with him, and they mentioned that anxiety that he always had ever since he was very young. This can be a positive thing. You can make it a positive thing. I'm not sure if it's going to be the case or if Ancelotti is going to manage to do that.
Question is he in last chance saloon with Ancelotti? Do we assume he will start the Merseyside derby?
I think so. I think Ancelotti will be very careful not to make this drastic a decision, because it's not something that you can take easily back. If you take out your goalkeeper, that really is it. You can't then a week later or 3 weeks later say, you know what, Pickford, you come back in. I mean, there are some very rare examples where it has worked. I remember Jens Lehmann had a bad spell on Arsenal under Wenger, came back in and then played really well. Yeah. But usually you kind of send out a message that goalkeepers, I think, find very hard to deal with once they're out. So
Joe Hart, look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think Ancelotti will give him as much time as possible before he'll make the decision. I think it's much more likely that he'll say, OK, it's Christmas now, half the season's done. How do we assess this position? Is it somewhere where we need to strengthen? If it is, let's recruit. Or let's see if we want to promote internally. But I don't think, 4 games into the season is the right moment to do that.